And welcome everybody to episode 7 of Rift Happens. I'm Justin T, joined by my esteemed co-host Ronnie B. He's breaking it down there in the in the bottom window. Ronnie, happy Tuesday.
Hey, what's up? I went pixel. No, wait, no, I'm good now. Hey, what's up, Justin? Just really happy to be here. Can't even contain my moves today. Really hype about breaking down this week's action, patch notes. We got some really exciting stuff to talk about. Good data to break down. Yeah, I'm hyped for sure. I don't know if you can tell.
Oh, I can tell. And I found I found a button in OBS Ninja that will auto clear up whenever your pixels smear. So now when it happens, it'll go back to normal, which is great.
That's why you're the man, Justin.
Well, yeah, it took a long time to figure it out. It shouldn't have taken me this long, but either way, here we are. Nevertheless, here we are. Episode 7. So thank you all so much for being here. This may be the last, definitely is going to be the last Tuesday day stream for this because I go back to work in the office tomorrow, by the way.
No, I didn't know this.
Yeah. So the podcast isn't going away, but the daytime stream is for sure. So we've got to work something out. So those of you that are our avid listeners and avid viewers, rather, you'll have some changes coming to the podcast, but we'll figure it out as we get through that. But episode 7, we're going to talk about a few things. One being the most impactful role in League of Legends. We've got some listener submissions and some listener feedback there, so we're really excited about that. A patch 11.15 preview. We'll kind of touch on that a little bit. Nothing too exhaustive. We're going to recap our featured Week 7 match from Coach Rival Season 2. And a special treat, we're going to do a playoffs preview with a featured playoffs match. That one is going to be between Team Coach Diff and the team on the right. So I'm looking forward to breaking that match down and looking at those team comps and maybe do some scouting for the coaches or for the players. I think they like that. I think they like when we do the scouting for them. What do you think?
Yeah, it started as just kind of like an off the cuff thing, and we got such a positive reaction from everyone. Like, whoa, you did it all for us, thank you. I'm not afraid to be wrong. I'm not afraid to look silly on camera. So yeah, I don't mind kind of spitballing and throwing a few ideas out there and trying to see if I can kind of predict the game script before it happens. We've seen these teams now for over 6 weeks of competition, right? Like that's it's a month and a half or so of just week after week, and you start to notice tendencies and things. And so I think now our predictions, I mean, if we'd started this back in week 1 or 2, it probably would have been not too useful for these guys. But now that we're a few weeks in, I've got a pretty good idea of the state of these different teams. And so it's really fun to kind of, throw some ideas out there and see what sticks. I'm right half the time, I'm wrong half the time. I'm having fun the whole time.
Yeah, part of the fun of it is seeing if the predictions come to fruition or not. But
yeah.
Let's kick it off with our discussion over the most impactful role. So when we posed this question to our listeners, and when Ronnie and I, kind of bouncing this back and forth, there are a couple of different ways to really look at this. Is one, which role do you believe has potentially the most carry potential? Can this role really by itself almost 1v9, or is this a role that, in your opinion, can have the most influence or have the most impact on the map? So we kind of posed it that way, and the way the poll worked, I broke it down into positions, and I intentionally did not put an other option. I had our listeners actually select one role because, I mean, really, when you break it down, we could talk about, well, every role has its impact, and it gets really subjective. And this isn't obviously a objective thing where we're going to take these results and they really mean something, for the future of League of Legends. Like, if we all picked mid as the most impactful, it's not like that's going to get nerfed or something, but it's kind of a fun subjective look at that. But Ronnie, I know you have a kind of a spicy one, so I'm going to defer. Well, actually, let me take the lead on this one. I'll give mine first, okay? And then I'll let you give yours second. How's that?
You're such a gentleman, Justin.
All right. So first for mine, the most impactful role, I'm going with jungle. I think jungle is an extremely difficult role to learn, but I feel like it has the highest skill ceiling as far as continuing to get better and fine tune things and having that major impact on the map. You do have every now and then you'll have kind of a 1v9 performance if you have something like a Master Yi just get to 5 items and then he's just alpha striking through everybody and killing them. But even if the game doesn't get to that point, the jungle role can influence every single lane on the map. Right, that's part of the jungler's job is help those laners and impact those lanes, whether it be through ganks, through counter ganking, assisting with a push, breaking freezes, things of that nature. And then on top of that, going through and securing these neutral objectives. They carry the Smite Summoner spell, which is huge whenever these neutral objectives are coming down to like a 50-50 kind of coin flip, and no other role carries that Summoner spell unless you're doing something crazy with a unsealed spellbook or something like that. But that's why I picked jungle. I believe jungle is the most impactful role. Ronnie, what do you believe is the most impactful role?
Well, as a jungle main, I just want to say thank you. Right, first and foremost, it was really hard to not pick jungle as well. Actually, initially in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, obviously jungle, right? Because what do people say about junglers, right? Like jungle diff wins games.
Mhm.
You like as a laner, you are in a very defined area of the map. Junglers can be anywhere, right? They can be top, mid, bot, whatever. So definitely a lot of power in that role, a lot of agency. I like to say junglers are the pendulum, right? For a lot of the action in a game, like they kind of get that they get those things swinging as far as momentum in their favor. But all that said, I didn't pick jungle for my most impactful role. I picked support, and this might surprise a few of you guys, right? Like you said, a little spicy, Justin. The main reason I picked support, right? A couple of reasons. I'll follow up here. So, main thing is support players are really, in my opinion, they're undervalued, right? Or the support champs. You'll notice even in the pro scene, a lot of the time you're at the 20-25 minute mark of a game, and a lot of champions are hitting like the 16 level 17 mark, and supports are still closer to like level 11 level 12, and that's not rare. That happens most LCS games. So it's something that you notice, like, okay, these guys are obviously sharing resources, they're roaming a lot, they're not able to just like soak up farm, right? That's just not your job. So already you get the least amount of resources. What I love about support is even with those very few resources, you're still the setup guy most of the time. You're the one who's landing the hook, landing some form of CC to start a fight or to start an engage or to secure an objective, right? You're kind of zoning people off. You can make an impact even when you're underleveled or you're behind. So even if your lane opponent has a huge lead, all it takes is one or two spells comboed, like a Thresh with his Death Sentence and a good Flay into a box, or Nautilus can kind of just like tank even if he's a little behind. So a good hook followed up by some of his other abilities layered in. You could turn a fight even if you die, your team might end up getting an ace in revenge, for you. And also, I love that supports are so vision focused, right? Because vision is another reason why you win or lose a lot of your games. So the fact, I mean, obviously, vision is everyone's job, but vision, warding, vision control is primarily the job of the support, which is why you get so many wards for free every game. Your support items and stuff. So again, another way that the support role can be really impactful without necessarily coming up on the damage graph or something like that. The KDA necessarily isn't always something that they're padding their stats with. And then finally, the last reason is because without you, your ADC can't do their job, right? The attack damage can't carry without someone peeling for them in a lot of cases, and your support is typically your number one peel. So a lot of the time, your support players are the ones kind of doing a lot of the heavy lifting, It's a really thankless job, so they don't really get the credit they deserve. But I see you supports. You guys are making the moves.
Yeah, and it's like if if you have an average support, then the game kind of goes as it should. And if your team wins, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, we had 5 players, and one of them was a support, and the support was just kind of there. The support, shielded the ADC or peeled for the ADC. That's great. But if you have a really great support, like it really shows. Like you'll have support roaming to the top. If a support buys Moby boots, sometimes supports will buy Moby boots just because it's recommended. But if your support intentionally buys Moby boots and roams to mid lane or even top lane, something like that, whenever allowing the ADC to farm safely, if the ADC is in a spot where they can farm safely in the bot lane, like a support performance like that is like really memorable and really noteworthy, and people really kind of comment on stuff like that. So I'll give you that. I like. I think those are both very. I think they're both valid answers. I know we have some people in chat that are disagreeing. I've seen we have trolls in the cast today because we didn't pick top lane, I think. But either way, this is what our listeners had to say. So if we take a look at the chart here for our listeners and people that aren't viewing right now, yeah. So this is what we had. We had 36.4% select mid lane. We had 9.1% selects top lane, and 54.5% select jungle. Now, I know that doesn't; those percentages don't mean a whole lot, but I think there were 11 total votes. So if you look at that 9.1% sliver there, I think it's safe to say that was just one listener that voted for top.
Yeah, no love for the bot lane though.
And it was probably Hernandez Teaches.
Yeah, right. I know, seriously. But no ADC and no support picks. Like literally, bot lane, according to the coaches, bot lane's irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
What's up with that, man?
And we'll see what they say. Let's go through or read through some of these responses and see what our listeners had to say. First one is from Blue Dragon 9450. That's the top laner for Immortals. He says he lives in I say, what state do you live in? It says despair. So
no. Good answer.
He's selected jungle and says jungle has the opportunity to decide the outcome of both lanes and objectives. If a lane is pretty even, a good game can turn a tie into a winning lane or let a lane snowball to the point of hard carrying a game. So kind of that we're in the same kind of boat right there. I think I'm getting some feedback from your end. I don't know if you have a speaker on, but
let me adjust.
Next response here is from Amy Ball out of Arizona. She believes that mid lane is the most impactful role in League of Legends. She says the mid lane is the shortest route to the Nexus. Yes, that is. Hey, so that's good. It is the shortest lane, so keep that in mind. It is the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, right? And so it's the only lane that's a straight line. Many team fights occur in mid. Also, the mid role can assist all other roles. Yes, jungle does that too, and it is a close second for the most impactful in her humble opinion. So I like the reason for mid, because mid can roam top, mid can roam bot, mid can also, if mid gets prio, can roam with the jungle for counter jungling, and then even help secure neutral objectives as well. So I feel like that's a valid response.
Yeah, really good answer. I like that. Plus, you get a lot of those like roaming mids, right? Like Galio, TF, the kind of player, the kind of champions who can literally show up anywhere, and by pressing R, all of a sudden, bam, they're in bot lane, bam, they're in top lane, right? And really make their impact felt map wide. So really good call. I like that analysis.
So we also have Chaz Mosley, TSS trainer, one of our coaches in our Coach Rivals League, out of Georgia, voted jungle, and this is why. It says, as a top laner, I think that jungle is one of the most important roles in League of Legends. They roam across the entire rift, setting up ganks, wards, taking out wards, and setting up for priority pick. They also counter jungle and take farm gold from the opposing team. With that being said, every role is important to the game and the team. One cannot carry without a support. Range cannot get close without a tank. And then he's talking about entering more deep thoughts of other roles. But so ultimately, he believes every role. And I think we had a couple of responses in here, too, where people said, well, I'm only picking this one because you forced me to pick one of them.
Sneaky. You called it, man. People were going to go for that other.
All right. Number 4. Next from Saikazi out of Arkansas. He selected mid. And he's jungling for us.
He's a jungle man.
Yeah, and he selected mid. Let's see. He says, I picked mid because there wasn't an other option. There we go.
Wow.
I feel like I've been in games where every role has been the most impactful in the game. I think it's the players that understand the macro game the best that are impactful. This could mean a roaming support, a jungle, literally any lane. For instance, you can go 7-0 in lane, but if you don't make the most of that advantage, it doesn't mean that much, and that's something that was pointed out too by Rogue Otters and Rick the Cleaner when they were casting the game that we had featured this past week. I think it was Spawn of Baron versus Hotline Ping. One of the things that they were talking about was when you get a lead, what do you do with that lead? It's not just sitting in your lane and continuing to bully the person that you're laying against, or you're farming really well, or you got a couple kills, you haven't died once. That's great, but how are you pushing that lead? So if you have a 2,000 gold lead and then 15 minutes later in the match you're still sitting at just a 2,000 gold lead, then you've really done nothing. In fact, it's getting more in favor of the enemy team. Like, they're not ahead, but the longer the game goes on, the more the gold leads need to be larger and larger because of the way the stats catch up and all that kind of stuff. So like a 2,000 gold lead at 10 minutes is not the same as a 2,000 gold lead at 30 minutes.
Yeah, really good point. And the main reason for that, right? Because in your head you're like, well, it's still the same amount of gold, right? The main reason for that is because as the game goes on, you unlock all of your abilities, so you've got access to your full kit. Maybe you've already got a couple items under your belt. So by the time you're looking at your third item or your fourth completed item, those aren't necessarily like the types of stats that may end up turning the game in your favor. So that third item or fourth, I mean, if you have your mythic and you've got like your completed boots and you're working on your third item or your fourth item, that 2,000 gold difference doesn't mean as much as when all you have is like a sword and like level 1 boots and stuff, and you're like your opponent has his mythic already. That's a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
So as the game goes on, you'll naturally kind of, if you can just keep that gap from widening, to your point, Justin, you'll end up kind of winning in a lot of cases.
Next, we have Coach Tony 12 out of New Mexico selected jungle. It says jungle can have the most impact in the game because they have to pay attention to the entire map 24/7 and be the shot caller for the team. That's kind of echoing what some of our chat's talking about right now. A jungler can get their team to coordinate their efforts. A jungler that can get their team to coordinate their efforts will win a lot of games. Absolutely. Cannon Teach, one of our jungle coaches from Colorado, it says, which role do you believe is the most impactful? He selected jungle, and it says, feel free to explain your answer here if you'd like. He wrote Eric. One word.
Yeah, no kidding, man. That guy. We were talking about this right before the show aired, and it wasn't anything important. We were just saying, like, man, that guy is far and away one of the best just natural League of Legends players I've ever seen. And yeah, he's taken on the jungle role really well this year, and he's shown how much of an impact it can make. But he was ADC last year, which won no votes as far as impact, right. And I'm pretty sure his team won the whole thing. So, I guess Eric is if other would have been an option, I would have probably filled in Eric too. It's pretty special.
We have Mike Billica out of Connecticut. This is Lucky B212. Also selected jungle. Said jungle is clutch for vision, objectives, and strategic ganks. A great jungler can carry bad laners by scaling in the jungle and carrying team fights. Next, Adam out of New York. Also selected jungle. We had Coach Magros out of Texas selected top lane. Oh, it was Coach Magros that selected top lane. It wasn't Hernandez Teaches.
Wow, that's surprising.
But he says that he selected top, But then in his explanation said jungle is by far the most impactful. It affects all lanes. Also, I think a fed bot lane is GG. So I don't know if he misclicked in
I
his
love it.
selection.
I'm glad he picked top either way. That's fantastic.
All right, here we have Mr. Hernandez teaches out of Texas. He selected mid. He said if mid lane gets ahead, they can roam and make plays around the map. When that happens, people get tilted.
Man, you know what? I bet he was just trying to be. He was trying to suck up to his mid laner.
That's Jeremy, yeah.
Yeah, Jeremy. He's like, Jeremy, man, you're so good, bro. Like, you carry us. Like, keep it up. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just kidding.
And then our final listener response is Sones out of Mississippi. He's playing mid lane for Deathcat for Cutie. He selected mid and said mid jungle early combination on the map. There must be presence from both of those roles. Double scuttle can quickly make the next 2.5 minutes for the enemy jungler very difficult if he fails to secure vision on either side of the river. When a mid laner and jungle communicate properly and secure fights on their own terms, this creates an early snowball potential. So that very last one is, those two lanes or those two roles together. And I would heavily agree there. And kind of to your point too, Ronnie, about support, a support roaming with the jungler can be very devastating to the enemy team. If the bot lane can get prio and your ADC can farm safely, maybe generate a freeze near his or her tower, then that unlocks the support to be able to do some roaming and can roam inside the enemy jungle with your jungler to put some deep wards, potentially look for a kill, roam and double gank mid, something like that. So I think we all kind of come to the same kind of conclusion, and one of the reasons why people are selecting the role that they're selecting is because they're viewing those roles as being able to influence macro on a macro level, right? We don't really, we never had anybody say like because the role is flashy or because you could just lock in a Kali GG, right? It's it's about working the map. It's macro sense. It's knowing when can I leave lane or when do I go to that lane? How do I manage that, but also be able to secure those objectives, because objectives wins games, not kills, right?
Yeah, definitely. You're dead on. And I've always liked this analogy when you're talking about League of Legends as a whole. It's kind of like when you're in an airplane and you buckle your seatbelt, right? The tightness of that seatbelt determines how firm you're going to be in that seat, right? Maybe you get some turbulence, you're rocking around, but if that seatbelt's really tight, right, you're not going anywhere. Well, the seatbelt is kind of like your control over the game, right? The impact you're having on the game. So if you're able to kind of continue to build a lead, you don't make any mistakes, you're choosing optimal pathing, you're getting all your CS, maybe you get a couple of kills, objectives. The tightness of that belt is going to be just like it was when you started. But whenever someone on your team makes a mistake or you guys lose a dragon or something, the seatbelt doesn't just fly off; it just gets a little looser, right? So you have a little bit less control, a little bit less of an impact. And then as the game goes on, right, you get to that 30, 35-minute mark, the seatbelt is basically non-existent because anything can happen at that point. But if you're able to kind of rein things in and keep a firm control of the game, which roles like mid, jungle typically have an ability to do, you're going to be able to make an impact from minute 1 to minute 35, whenever the game finishes. So I think that's a lot of the reason why people are choosing some of these solo lane roles, or jungle. I kind of consider that a solo lane role too, because they do have the most agency, and so therefore they have the most impact, right? Mm-hmm. Makes sense. But that's, I guess in my mind, that's kind of how I've always broken it down too.
Yeah, cool. I really like that. Moving on, we're going to try to speed things up because we have a lot to cover. We have patch 11.15 that is going to be dropping this Thursday, July the 22nd. It may hit tomorrow, but it's dropping this week. And the first thing that's coming with it is our brand new champion. I'm going to call him Akshan, but I think Freak was kind of Ukshan. right?
Yeah.
But either way, we did preview the new champion on our last episode, episode 6. So if you want an in-depth dive into what to expect out of the roguish assassin in the solo lane, then be sure to check out episode 6 of Rift Happens. We cover all that. We also have some champion buffs coming in this patch. Some to Blitzcrank. His Q is going to be doing more damage. He gets a little bit more base armor. Caitlyn's Q is going to have its attack damage ratio increased. Cassiopeia, which we actually haven't seen Blitzcrank or Cassiopeia in Coach Rivals this season. But either one, Cassiopeia is having her Twin Fang. Bonus magic damage dealt is going to be increased. Ferromancy on Rel, her W, is going to have the cooldown decreased. Kennen is getting a buff as well. The Q damage is getting buffed. Dark Sphere for Syndra, that's her Q, is getting its mana cost decreased. And Mordekaiser, which we did see this week, we'll talk a little bit about that. His W is having its cooldown decrease, so he's going to have that up more often. And the stored damage dealt by that ability has increased as well. So staying within that melee range of Mordekaiser when he pops his W is really going to hurt. That's buffed from 30% up to 45%. So I feel like that's pretty substantial. Nidalee is having her stats changed a little bit. Base health has been increased in health per level. Shyvana buffs. We haven't really seen Shyvana, but maybe we'll see Shyvana in the jungle. They're almost like they're pushing her more towards AP Shyvana because her Twin Bite, her Q ability, has had the AP ratio increased from 25% up to 35%. And the AP ratio of the second attack has also been increased from 15 to 25%. So I love AP Shyvana. I think she's a lot of fun because you can nuke people with your Dragon Form E. But to buff the AP ratios on her Q as well is going to make those maybe Gnasher Tooth builds and stuff. I don't know, a lot more fun. She's gonna pack more of a punch AP wise in melee form too.
Yeah, Shyvana, I don't think I've got a couple notes just real quick on some of these, but Shyvana was one I thought was really interesting for the reason you gave. The whole AP Shyvana has always been like Riot doesn't want to kind of overbuff it because it's so strong. That fireball that comes in and then explodes, people aren't expecting the radius of the explosion, and so you end up getting like, triple kills and stuff because no one knows how to avoid it. It's really fun to play, but horrible to play against. I can't believe we haven't seen a Blitzcrank, and the fact that like he's getting this little buff, I really hope we do because he's such a cool champion with such a unique identity. We've seen already Caitlyn as one of our most picked, most contested picks, and now she's getting a buff, right? This is only going to push her even more so into, perma-ban territory potentially. I'd love to see Cassiopeia, but who knows if it's such a unique champ. She doesn't get boots, right? She's got like this weird kind of, you have to be facing her for her R to really be effective. It's a really unique champion in general, and it's hard to build a composition around. So I don't know if we'll see Cassio, but I like seeing the buff. I don't think we've seen Rel either at all.
No.
And so, cool, another buff. Maybe we'll see some Rel. Same with Syndra. We haven't seen any Syndra. We did see our first Kennen last week, and I believe that it was in a loss. So I don't know if we'll see Kennen again, but
it did solo kill Set though. That was Blue Dragon 9450 on the Kennen. He did solo kill on the Set.
Yeah, that was right. It was against the Set. You're right. Yeah. And then other than that, Nidalee, I don't know that it'll make a big impact. Mordekaiser was already kind of a contested pick, and then the last one you left off here was the Featherstorm decrease cooldown for Xayah.
Yeah,
and I think that one is huge.
Yeah, it's massive.
Yeah, right. It's a big buff. 30 seconds at some ranks, and already Xayah's main. The reason you pick her is because of the R and the safety that you get from that. And so now you get it at max rank every 100 seconds. I mean, that's incredible. So I think that's going to make a big impact for sure.
Yeah, like our most recent match versus Coach Diff, a Smooth Criminal picked Nocturne mid, and because he picked Nocturne, I normally save my ADC pick for last. This is almost like a sneak peek into how we
Ooh.
do our draft. But I always save like my ADC pick for last if it just means that I'm gonna be on a right clicky champion. Like that's it. I mean, all 80. You can make pretty much any ADC work. You may have to change your playstyle based on that ADC, but for the most part, like your team comps don't really rely on your particular ADC pick. Like you may pick a more of a utility ADC, but you have several options there. So if one of them gets banned over the other one, it's like, okay, fine, I'll just pick the other one. It's not really that big of a deal. So I tend to leave my ADC pick for last because I can, for my teammates that have smaller champion pools, it allows them to be able to get their picks in that first round so that they don't get banned for second ban phase. And then if we leave ADC for second pick phase, then people can just, they can ban ADC all they want. That's fine. However, when I will first pick ADC, or at least pick ADC in the first round, is if somebody locks in Nocturne, and then I'm picking Xayah.
It's so safe. Yeah, you could just R out of it. We've seen it already against you guys with Coach Magros playing the Scion and the Featherstorm being very effective at avoiding the Scion engage with his R. I remember it was like that really amazing, like Scion's coming in, he's gonna hit Xayah, she ults up, he just whoosh, flies right on by. So it's a really cool disengage tool. And now that the cooldown is so low, you can actually use it aggressively occasionally, and not have to worry. Oh man, I won't have my ult for 3 minutes or something. So yeah, I love it because Xayah is a really fun champion to watch. So this is a welcome buff.
Yeah, for sure. All right, champion nerfs. Let's talk about these, and we'll see if we impact any of the champions that happen to be staples in Coach Rival Season 2. Annie is getting nerfed. Her Q ability power ratio is being decreased. Aurelion Sol, which we talked about a little bit last week. I talked about as a champion that never carries me, but that's because my elo is too low. Apparently, he's a terror in high elo, but ability cooldown increase on his Q has been increased by 1 second at all ranks. They've been kind of debating how to tune his power. Gwen is getting a nerf. Hallelujah. Her attack speed has been decreased on her E. Aurelia, a lot of people feel Aurelia was overtuned in this most recent kind of mini rework she received, but her W is being nerfed. Minimum damage dealt has been decreased, and the maximum damage dealt is being decreased as well. For Kayle, her base magic resistance has been decreased. For Sylas, his Q damage has been increased, but his healing from Kingslayer has been decreased, which is like good because that's one of the most annoying things about playing into Sylas is how much he heals from those trades. Viego, we can stop and talk about these nerfs. These are crazy. Yeah. If you look at that last bullet point for Viego, his Q ability, the Blade of the Ruin King, the base damage dealt has been decreased. The bonus damage he deals to monsters has been doubled, so we know what that means. And then you look at that final bullet point, healing gain from minions decreased to 10% from 50%. Like, they pretty much said, stop going to lane.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. This is effectively a buff to jungle Viego and a nerf to lane Viego, a hard nerf. Like to your point, they're saying, like, dude, get out of lane. We don't want to see you there anymore. It's kind of like what Riot's aiming to do with Lee Sin. Yeah. At some point, like they're trying to get him more back in the jungle because he started showing up top lane, mid lane, even ADC in like some pro games. So yeah, I think this is kind of one of those things where they've realized, all right, he's going to keep showing up in mid lane until we do something about it. So let's nerf really hard, like a 40% nerf to his healing on minions. That's massive. So I don't think you're going to see, especially in the pro play, you're going to see very much Viego made anymore as soon as this patch catches up with pro play because it takes them a while. But for more importantly for Coach Rivals, I don't think you're going to see as much Viego in the lane. And when you see someone lock it in, kind of like how Nocturne has become more of a jungle champion again recently. I think you're going to start to see that with Viego too, where the flexibility's been taken away a bit. And when you pick a Viego early, you're kind of showing your hand, hey, this is probably our jungler.
Yeah, you're right. And that's something that Coach Diff did too. Like they can use the Nocturne as a flex. The set was even a flex. And I don't recall if Viego was a flex for them. But I know they used it top, but it could be. I think they did play Viego jungle too. So it's kind of like one of those where you're exactly right. Now post 11-15, you lock Viego. It's no longer that flex pick, right? It's pretty much a telltale sign it's going jungle, so you can adjust and draft accordingly after that. Good point.
Not as scary anymore.
Yeah, that's really good. Thresh's Flay, his E, the ability cooldown has been increased on that. It's a really cool tool for dissuading engages from things like a Leona or Rakan, things of that nature. So really good. Thresh players will save their E to stop some of those engages. Wukong is having his health regeneration decreased, and that kind of rounds out the nerfs. And there is one champion adjustment coming, and this one's coming to Rumble. The duration of his overheating has been decreased to 5.25 seconds from 6 seconds. And there's a couple of other things that they've done with him as well that wasn't in this little snip, but making some adjustments to Rumble. They're not really declaring it as a buff or a nerf. So just kind of tweaking him a little bit.
Adjustment. Okay, I'll take it. Well, before we move on to the next section, I also wanted to mention, just real quick, for Gwen, this is only really going to impact her early game, because if you notice, the E still scales to 80% by the time it's at max rank. So she's still going to be just as much of a menace in the late game. But this is going to take a big chunk out of her early game trades. So I like that, because I feel like that's when Gwen is kind of at her most kind of broken state, is in the early game. So I like that they've done that and still not taken away some of her late game power. I talked about Viego. The only other thing I had to say was free Asol, man. We've been talking about free Brittany, right? Whatever. That's all over the news right now. Free Asol, man. How are you gonna nerf this guy who has like a sub 1% pick ban rate? Like, my goodness, I feel so bad for like this very tiny community that still plays Asol. You'll probably never see him in your solo queue games unless you're like you said, like Diamond or something. So bummer.
Oh man, I really like what you mentioned about Gwen still being strong late and the nerf hit her early. So I think this is kind of a teachable moment, because we have some coaches that are new to League of Legends. But when you look at these patch notes, and I'll highlight it here on there. Let me change the fill of that. Can I not do that?
Justin, we can't see it.
Yeah, that's weird. Okay, I don't know what I'm doing. Here, let me just underline it. There we go. We'll just underline it.
There you go.
So when you see the patch notes and you see the slashes between the numbers, that is each skill level you put into that ability. So, E level 1, not champion level, but ability level 1 was 40% attack speed on there, and then now they're dropping that to 20. Well, after you put 5 ability points in there, she was already at 80% attack speed, and then you see there she's still going to be at 80% attack speed. So it's going to ramp up from a smaller number back to that same number. So that's a good point, Ronnie, for like kind of letting people know how to interpret these, to know, is the nerf actually hitting? It's not like you're hitting them with the nerf bat and they're just going to be worse overall. It just kind of tunes their power and makes sure that it shifts to like a different portion of the game, basically.
Yeah, well said. Absolutely.
All right, so moving on, before we get into our week 7 review of Coach Rivals Season 2, I want to shout out Skulls, one of our partners for Coach Rivals as well as Phoenix Gaming. Skulls offers teams a range of print-on-demand products like jerseys, shirts, and other gear, available in a short time of 10 days or less. That's pretty good. Skulls also offers full custom designs, and this is probably the coolest part, a dedicated shop where esports teams can receive a portion of their sales to help fund their programs. fundraising is a big thing. And coaches are looking for ways to constantly generate funds for their program because we don't have like boosters and all that kind of stuff for esports. So check out Skulls. They're partnering also with Phoenix Gaming. So there are some details of that being worked out that I don't know all of. That can be revealed later. But either way, check them out at www.skulls.com. Moving on.
By the way, that's how you know they're really cool.
Because of the Z?
Z. Yeah, man, that's how you know, bro. Skulls. Hard Z. Sorry.
No, I remember in when I was first trying to come up with my screen name or my gamer tags for games I was playing with. I remember putting like a lowercase X and a big X right after it, and then my name, and then a big X and a little X after it. I thought that was so cool, man. You got X's in his name, like, man, don't mess with that guy.
I'm gonna cross you out, man. You're coming for you. What?
Oh my god, look back. Oh man,
the intimidation factor, man.
There's a subreddit called Blunder Years that is amazing, where people put pictures of themselves from like, it's typically middle school, and where they thought they looked really cool, but they don't. That's how I feel about like my old gamer tags and stuff, like the way that I named it.
To this day, bro. That's me. I love it.
Oh man. All right, so here are our standings that were through 6 weeks. So these were the standings right before we had our week 7 matchups, which we're gonna recap here for a second. But heading into week 7, we had Deathcat for Cutie sitting in first place at 5-2, Team Tragedy in second place at 5-0, Team Coach Diff at 4-1, Just Good Enough in fourth place at 3-3, Hotline Ping at 3-2, the team on the right and Spawn of Baron sitting at 1-4, with team on the right holding the tiebreaker edge there, and then Immortals in 8th place at 0-6. So those were the standings. And then we had a lot of matchups. We had 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 6 games this past week. The only team that didn't play was Deathcat for Cutie because they had finished their season like a week early. So we had a lot of action this past week. But the one match that you and I, Ronnie, focused on in episode 6 was this Hotline Ping versus Spawn and Baron match that we covered. And I went back and listened to it, so I put your notes on there. So before we talk about how the game played out, let's just kind of remind everybody, I'm going to help you remind yourself, what was this advice that you gave to Hotline Ping? You can use the notes here if you need it.
Yeah, no, I will, right? Because as soon as our episode is recorded, that's like right on to the next one.
Right.
No, but there's just no room up there, man. But yeah, like Hotline Ping, right? We talked about banning the Ziggs. Boom, Ziggs first ban. I love it. Thank you. I think you did yourselves a favor there. The Kai'Sa and the Lux, right? Maybe that didn't work out, but I like the Ziggs ban right off the jump, because I'm telling you, man, MG Flory, that guy is a monster with the Ziggs. The first pick, Caitlyn, again, boom, that worked out, right? Caitlyn was a really strong pick for the whole game. No spoilers, but yeah, it was a really, really good pick ban phase for the first couple of picks there. And then the Pyke Pantheon first round pickup, they didn't get the Pyke because it got banned, but the Pantheon came through for Hotline Ping. So again, 3 for 3, I'm just saying. And I'm just kidding. I'm not that full of myself. And then the last one was the counter pick for other roles, right? Like try to get picks where you know you're going to maybe it's something they want, a contested pick. That one kind of ended up going in Spawn of Baron's favor. Top lane, they played really well and they got the counter pick. Mid lane also was kind of they pigeonholed mid lane a little bit, and so MG Flory had a really strong game with Diana. Really unexpected after getting the Ziggs ban. You know, you figure he's going to go on something like Annie or Nivea or something like that. And threw me for a loop. So I like the strategy. I like the way that was implemented from these guys. I like that I was right for like 3 out of 4. But you know, other than that, really, really great pick ban phase for you guys, and a good match overall.
Yeah, so for me, I was the kind of quote unquote coach for Spawn of Baron, And my advice was ban out Ched, right? Because Ched was on the Pike and the Pantheon. So ban out maybe possibly even both of those, or definitely one of them. And then also recommended targeting any mobile ADCs that Daddy Kai could potentially bring to this matchup, because of the play style that Hotline Ping tends to play is putting a lot of eggs in the AD carry basket. Throwing some of those mobile ADC bans that way to people you don't want to deal with could be big. I also recommended considering Mordekaiser top, because you can ult the ADC out of the fight if there's a lot of investment in the ADC and you completely remove the ADC from the equation, then okay, you win, right? I did want to see MG Flurry on an aggressive mid laner. I didn't want to see Anivia. I don't want to see Veigar. I want to see playmaking, right? And I recommended Snowball on the top side of the map, so putting a lot of attention there. So as you mentioned, some of our stuff came to fruition, right? I think you did better than I did. You had the Ziggs ban, the first pick Caitlyn, and then the first pick or the first rotation of or first round rather, Pike Pantheon. But looking at it all together, Hotline Ping did end up banning Ziggs. Ziggs just in general is really strong right now, not just in the hands of MG Flurry, but we saw Sones getting the pentakill with the Ziggs. Ziggs is actually a flex pick right now from mid and bot. So just keep that in mind as we go into playoffs. Even on patch 11.15, Ziggs has not been changed. They didn't touch him. So Ziggs is still going to be a staple in this next patch. So teams may want to keep that in mind. You may see players break out the Ziggs that don't show much Ziggs in their play history. But they banned Ziggs, Morgana, which we were kind of expecting. I was surprised that Hotline Ping banned the Lulu because of Hotline Ping's playstyle and having, buffing the AD carry and letting the AD carry do a lot of the work. I feel like Lulu would be a really good boon to that. Now, it's obviously Ched's not going to play Lulu, right?
Yeah, he's just such a playmaker. Yeah,
but maybe Zenburn, maybe in the top lane, we
Cartera,
could have Cartera could potentially play Lulu. Either way, it was surprising to me to see that. And then Hotline Ping banned out Kai'Sa Tristana second ban phase. Spawn of Baron did ban out Pike first phase. They banned Olaf and they banned Trundle. So 2 jungle picks. That Trundle could potentially go top lane as kind of like a split push threat. And then they banned Malphite and Nocturne in the second ban phase. And then getting into the picks, we could talk about the Caitlyn. We'll actually talk about the Caitlyn a little bit later too, as we start to look at data. But the Caitlyn surprised me because you had your pick of any ADC that you wanted.
Yep.
And you picked Caitlyn.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know. I'm not.
It's like I have nothing else to say.
I think Caitlyn's fun to play. I think Caitlyn can be very, very effective in lane. But to me, it's hard to carry on Caitlyn, in my opinion. Caitlyn was one of my... Whenever I picked Aurelion Sol as a champion that never carried me, I debated putting Caitlyn on there.
Wow.
Because
that's bold from an ADC main. Seriously,
I don't exactly know what it is totally with her kit. A lot of her damage is loaded in her headshots, and if she's not getting those off, rapidly, but like she's got some utility with her traps. Her 90 caliber net isn't really used offensively. It's it can be used to gap close, but it can also be used to create distance. It could be used to set up another headshot combo if you've got like a trap into 90 caliber net, double headshot, things of that nature. You can use it to get over walls and things like that. Her ult is really I don't know. It's
not an execute.
Yeah,
right?
It's easily blocked. I don't really like it, right? But
easily canceled too. Yeah,
it's hard when you look at Caitlyn and her kit, and then you compare it to other ADCs, like even Varus or the Kai'Sa that was banned, or the Tristana that was banned, right? when you look
Yep.
at those, it's like, okay, they have a lot of kind of playmaking potential in their kits. You have the Killer Instinct from the Kai'Sa. She's got the E that will, once it's leveled up, it gives her invisibility. The Tristana gets resets, does a ridiculous amount of burst damage now with the Hail of Blades and the Bomb combo on there. The Caitlyn surprised me. And so that's what I was saying. If you had your pick, the Caitlyn really I could see if Caitlyn went second pick phase and it was the last ADC and you pick Caitlyn, I understand that. But the
Yeah.
first pick phase, that's where it's just not something that I would do.
Yeah. So this is, in my opinion, so that was one of my tips, right? Was to take the Caitlyn away
Mhm.
from Spawn of Baron. And I
Because
think that's what the
because
idea
beginner's
was.
mind plays it.
Right. Beginner's mind
so
plays
well.
a lot of Caitlyn. Right. Really well. Exactly. So I think that's what the idea was, right? Let's get the Caitlyn away from him, force him to play something else. And then Spawn and Baron didn't pick ADC until the end. So then,
Mhm.
then the Kai'Sa and the Tristana bans come through to kind of whittle the ADC pool down. I don't hate it, right? I actually, so I like Caitlyn. When I ever did play ADC back in the day, Caitlyn was most of the time my go-to. And the reason is because I feel like Caitlyn has a really unique identity. She's a
Mhm.
sniper, right? Which is, there's not really an equivalent with another champion, right? You've got lots of range with Varus and Tristana and some of these other champions. But Caitlyn being the sniper is something that doesn't exist on another character. So to play Caitlyn effectively, you have to play her different than most of their ADCs. You want to auto attack from the brush because you build up your headshots twice as fast.
Mhm.
You want to make, and a lot of people don't know about that. So you're just hitting in lane. It's like every eight auto attacks you get the headshot. If you're doing it from the brush, it's every 4, so it's much more often. Traps can be placed right on the very edge of a brush, so as soon as someone walks in, they're getting trapped, and then you get the headshot. Maybe you get a second one as they're walking away. So it's a safe pick in my opinion.
Mhm.
I also like Caitlyn for objective control, because if you're in the dragon pit and enemies are walking in from one of the kind of alcoves in the river, you can effectively drop 3 traps right there, and someone has to eat that CC in order to get close to you. So even just having that line of traps there will dissuade opponents from even contesting a Drake sometimes. So I like her for the utility. I don't know if she's the strongest pick or anything, but the fact that she's been picked so much in Coach Rivals lets me know that it's definitely something that a lot of our ADC mains favor,
Mhm.
or it's something that like no one is bothering to ban because they want to get rid of everything else. I don't know. Maybe it's a combination of both, but I think that's kind of what the idea was with the Caitlyn first pick. I think I like Hotline Ping's early pick ban. Right, their first 3
Mhm.
picks, I don't hate them, but then I think the second phase of the pick ban is where Spawn of Baron really kind of won the pick and ban phase. I'll say that the Cho'Gath pick was unexpected because
Right.
they basically forced Cartera onto like something else, right? They
Mhm.
take away the Malphite, the Trundle, that could be Flex Top. They take away the Cho'Gath. They forced her onto the Mordekaiser, which is ironic because that was kind of what you were calling for. Hey
Right.
guys, Mord, right? And they played the Cho'Gath into Mord very well. So the same idea but different kind of champion. And then the Aphelios pick at the very end, I didn't see it coming. No one else has played him. So the fact that they saved that for the very end really, I think, caught Hotline Ping off guard, and that combined with all the jungle bans like the Olaf and all that forced Hotline Ping to pick up a less than ideal jungler with Mundo,
Mhm.
who is up to this point still winless in Coach Rivals. So yeah, really strong early start to the pick ban phase for Hotline Ping, but I think after the second, third pick, it started to kind of swing in favor of Spawn of Baron, and you really saw a lot of the game preparation come into play here because Spawn of Baron really had a very focused game plan from the jump for sure.
Yeah, when you look at, we'll kind of recap it for anybody that's not able to see if they're just listening. But Hotline Ping did start with the Caitlyn first pick. Spawn Baron answered with a Cho'Gath top and Nautilus support. Hotline Ping responded with Pantheon support and Victor mid. Victor, which we've been expecting, like from Zenberg, like playing a lot of Victor pretty much the whole season. Spawn Baron responded with a Diana mid. So there's that aggressive pick, which to me threw everything, like threw me for a loop. I wanted to see an aggressive pick from MG Flurry, but I was thinking like, okay, play Silas. But the Diana for me kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't know that Diana was anybody that he had ever played before, to be honest. And then Sejuani came through for Spawn Baron in the jungle, and that's when Hotline Ping answered with Mundo jungle, Mordekaiser top, and then Spawn Baron rounded out with the Aphelios. So I like when you mentioned the Mundo pick and you're not liking the second half of Hotline Ping's draft, I would agree, because when you already look at 4 of the champions that have been selected for Spawn Baron, you have Cho'Gath, Nautilus, Diana, and Sejuani. Like, all of those champions have a lot of CC. And one of the parts of Mundo's kit that he can take advantage of and that should be used effectively is that CC denial, but he only gets to use it once. Mm-hmm. So I almost feel like Mundo would be best into teams that don't have a lot of CC. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like you're going to get more value out of your passive because, you know, if the only hard CC they have is a Morgana Q, then okay, you're good to go. Like, you just walk at them, you eat the first Q, and then you're fine. But Mundo, there's no way for him to get onto the Aphelios here. I mean, you're gonna pop Mundo's passive with just one of these abilities, but then you have, you know, the Sejuani's going to ult you or E you. Diana can use the ult. Nautilus has, you know, 3 different forms of hard CC. Cho'Gath has the knock-up. Like, they're not even going to get close to this Aphelios. But then the Aphelios pick comes through. Now, I really like this one because Aphelios is one of those ADCs that you can wait till the very end to pick based on what the enemy team has. And because they have 3 melee, 3 get in your face, we want to fight you up close champions, the Aphelios pick is really good here because he thrives on that. Really, you know, he really likes being in the action. The red and white guns are huge up close. He uses his Q on his red, which charges up all those chakrams, and then he switches to chakra mode, and he shreds in those up close fights. So the Aphelios, if I remember correctly, before Beginner's Mind changed his name, it was the String of Numbers, and I would affectionately refer to him as Numbers anytime I saw him in a game. I'd be like, hey, who's on Numbers team, right? And so I if I remember correctly, he was one of the ones that really spammed Aphelios when Aphelios first came out. You know, a couple of years ago or last year or what have you, for Coach Rivals Season 1. I think Aphelios was always banned against him, if I remember correctly. I could be misremember. I could be thinking of somebody else, but it was really cool to see that pick come out, and it was, you know, it can be directly in response to they're showing 3 melees on the side of Hotline Ping. The Aphelios fits in really well.
Yeah, really good call, Justin. Man, the hard-hitting analysis, bro. For those of you at home who don't know this term, what Justin was just talking about, right, with Beginner's Mind, having this pick that he's played a lot in the past, but not something that you can scout effectively because he hasn't played it much recently. That's what we refer to as a pocket pick.
Yes.
It's something that you know really well. It's just sitting in your back pocket. You don't even have to practice it because you know it so well. So as soon as you see the opportunity, you get the green light, boom, you throw it down. Nobody knows it's coming. So love to see the pocket pick come out for Beginner's Mind, and it was pretty effective.
Yeah, for sure. So this was the results. Spawn Baron did end up taking the game in 31 minutes and 15 seconds. Got the stats on there. The Zach Rogaters ended up giving Jadiko the MVP on the Sejuani for Spawn of Baron, and I don't know about you, but I would definitely agree. I don't know who you
Yeah,
picked.
it was so the match was really chaotic, a lot of stuff going on, as most of our matches are. But I actually had to give it to another player. I had to give it to TSS Trainer on the Cho'Gath top lane. Not only was he the only deathless player in the entire game,
Yep.
which I value like low deaths more than most other stats, because it means you're on the rift the whole time. You've got more of an impact. And not only did he go deathless, but he almost flame horizoned his lane
That's
opponent,
true.
meaning he almost got 100. Yeah, he's like 60, 70 CS up over Cartera. And Cartera's specialty is Cho'Gath.
Hmm.
So this, in my mind, right? Like you put Cho'Gath into Cartera, she's probably going to win that matchup most of the time. But TSS Trainer, man, put on some fancy footwork. Really just took over that side of the map and made it possible for his team to kind of win elsewhere, carry that lead in, and just continue to dominate. They couldn't even touch him. So I had to, it's not flashy. Cho'Gath is a really like you know simple champion, I guess. That kind of just like walks at you, silences you, knocks you up, but played extremely effectively by TSS Trainer. My hat goes off to you, sir.
Yeah, the it's kind of one of those weird things too, like picking your opponent's like most played champion into them.
Yeah,
It's in
takes
some
some guts.
yeah, in some context it's like it's not disrespectful. It's not the word I'm looking at, but it's kind of like it's brazen and it's
Yes.
bold. Because Cartera knows Cho'Gath, right? Knows
Hmm.
that champion forwards and backwards. So to pick it into her is it's a bold strat, Cotton, but it paid off, right?
It
It
was
definitely,
effective. Yeah.
yeah, it definitely worked out. Talking about some of the stuff, what was happening with Jadiko, I really think that there's been a lot of growth for Jadika. I think jungle is a brand new role for this coach. I
Wow.
believe support may have been the main there, but because Jadiko played Nautilus jungle the very first game, right? And I feel like that was a comfort pick for Spawn Baron. Just because I think the jungle role is brand new, but the gank that Jadiko pulled off in the bot lane, like the very first gank, was a wraparound gank through the enemy tri-brush right in front of their tier 1 tower. And I was like, that's big. Like those are
Yeah.
really big steps to wrap around gank through the enemy tri-brush, because typically you just come straight down river and you sit in that river brush and then you hope that they push forward enough. You're like, no, just wrap around through the tri-brush, which as the more you play, the more often you see it. But for someone that is potentially new to the role, I think that's huge improvement, and a lot of credit goes to their improvement and learning the role and practicing, and then even maybe the coaching that could be going on behind the scenes with the team and trying to get them more comfortable there.
Yeah. Well said. Jungle is not the most popular role. I'll put it that way. And there's a reason for that. It's really unforgiving. It's really hard to learn, and it's different than every other position on the map, right? Everywhere else, it's kind of similar. You're getting some CS. You're trying to poke your enemy, keep your lane safe, watch your tower, get their tower. Jungle is completely different than every other role, so a lot of people don't even bother learning it because it's so specialized. So the fact that you were able to transition from potentially support to jungle so quickly, I had no idea, right? Like I didn't even know this guy wasn't a jungle main. Like you're really like killing it. Like honestly, JDco, right? That's how you say
Hmm.
that.
I'm
You're
guessing.
yeah. If we're saying it wrong, please correct us, mate. Because all respect goes out to you. You're one heck of a jungler. So, yeah, it was tough not to give you the MVP. But to Justin's point, you definitely have made a massive improvement from just earlier in the season to now. And man, you guys look playoff ready. That's for sure.
Yeah, so the MG Flory aggressive pick, I would say, paid off as well for
Yep.
Spawn and Baron. 5-2-2, 164 CS to the Zenburn's Victor, which is a comfort pick for Zenburn, I feel like. Zenburn's played the Victor nearly every week, 0-5-9 on the Victor. So the Diana definitely, putting in some work. I like to see MG Flory on the aggressive pick, so I like this. The new Spawn of Baron, I think. That's what I'm going to coin it. This is the new Spawn of Baron. Off of the Caitlyn, get off Caitlyn, and get off Anivia, and play these like hard carry ADC champions that can do just a crap ton of damage in the late game, like the Aphelios, and then put MG Flory on an aggressive pick that can make some plays. And it looks like they did influence really that top side of the map, 7-0 and 8, as you mentioned, on the Cho'Gath. And then bot lane wasn't like miles ahead. Beginner's Mind and Mishka, they weren't, light years ahead of Daddy Kai and Ched. 234 CS to 248, 8-3 and 14 to 7-5-2. I think Ched had probably a worse game than he wanted, right? When you look at 1, 8, and 7, Pantheon is going to be a big engage tool, like you W in, but then once you're in, like there's no way to get out. So when you look at that 8 deaths, it's not like that he entered, but it's kind of one of those where maybe the follow-up just wasn't there. I like the Pantheon Caitlyn combo because you can W onto them and then drop a trap underneath them, similar to you can like a Caitlyn Morgana. So maybe that's what they were thinking for lane, potentially. But either way, Spawn of Baron took it, and this was a big win for them for the standings, knowing that they were sitting in 7th and playing this Hotline Ping team, which I believe at the time were sitting at 4th place or 5th place before coming into this week. Well, let me double check those standings. Hotline Ping was at 5th. I'm sorry, they were at 5th, and Spawn of Baron was at 1 and 4, and 7th at 1 and 4. So a 3 and 2 team versus a 1 and 4 team, statistically. Right, data-wise, just say, "Oh, Hotline Ping wins this. They're the better team because they have the better record." But if Coach Rival Season 2 has shown us anything, is that any team can beat any other team.
Yeah, Spawn of Baron making a splash late in the season, and coming into this game, the big storyline for me was Ched versus Mishka. These two have been far and away two of the most aggressive, playmaking style supporters, but in different ways, right? Like Ched doing it with the pike, doing it like kind of getting the kills himself. Mishka more so kind of padding stats, getting everybody else ahead, finding ways to gain an advantage. So the fact that these two kind of met up, I thought this was going to be one heck of a match. And outside of right, we talked about Ched's scoreline 1, 8, and 7. Most of his deaths, at least like 2 or 3 of them in the late game, were just him getting picked, unfortunately, right? It was, I'm going to go and roam over here, see if they're doing dragon, place a couple of wards. Oh, no, they're all here. Dang, I'm dead. And that happened a couple times, really not his fault. Unfortunately, as the support, that's your job in a lot of cases. And as your team starts to lose some of that momentum and you're not able to safely get some wards out, well, that's when the enemy team starts looking for those picks. And sure enough, Spawn of Baron played it really well. Mishka had some like max range hooks on Nautilus, some really epic kind of engages there, doing a really good job of making sure to pick out the right targets. But both supporters were the players on their team with the most deaths. So to my point, unfortunately, the support role, you take a lot of lumps, but you made a really big impact. And I'd say out of the two of you, Mishka won the support versus support match. Not that it matters. I mean, right? Who cares, right? It just comes down to who won the game. But in my mind, that was the matchup I was looking at the closest. And I really was impressed by Mishka's play on the Nautilus. Awesome job.
Yeah, and gave Nautilus a win, right? Because Nautilus has had he's had a rough season.
He deserves it, man. Yeah, I know. Our Seaborn boy, poor guy.
So rounding up our week 7 matchups, that wasn't the only match that we had, but this is how the rest of them played out. Team on the right took out Coach Diff. As we mentioned, Spawn Baron did beat Hotline Ping. Team Tragedy took a win over Team Coach Diff as well. Team on the right also beat Immortals. Team Tragedy took on Spawn Baron and grabbed the win there. And then Hotline Ping took on Just Good Enough and picked up a win there, which brings us to our final regular season standings. So this is after how many weeks of action? 7 weeks?
7 weeks, man. Almost 2 months.
7 weeks of action. All the dust has settled. Every team makes playoffs, and we'll take a look at the playoff bracket here in a little bit, but this is how the regular season kind of ends up. Team Tragedy sitting in first place at 7-0. Deathcat for Cutie dropped to second place to 5-2. Team Coach Diff in third place, sitting at 4-3 with a tiebreaker over Hotline Ping, who with the same record, they're sitting in fourth place. JGE and Team on the right are both sitting at 3-4, but JGE has the tiebreaker, so that puts them in fifth place. Team on the right in sixth place. Spawn Baron in seventh place, and Immortals in eighth place. So you can see the way this is basically seeding for playoffs. So first place will play eighth place, second place will play seventh place, etc., etc., etc. All right, data. Let's look at some of the data. Yeah, go ahead.
I just thought about it, Justin. Before we move on a little too far, I missed the mark, but I still want to call it out. One more thing about the match, right? Our featured match. Hats off to Rogue Otters and to Rick the Cleaner. You guys were incredible, man. Like, you guys had never hosted a cast, just jumped in, fearless. I think Rogue Otters did a second cast afterwards solo. You guys were fantastic. It was so fun to watch you. Thank you for stepping up and filling in when some other casters just weren't available, myself included. And genuinely awesome cast. You guys made that so fun to watch. And we were all along for the ride. It was really, really fun. So thank you to both of you guys, and I hope we see more of you.
Yeah, we've had a really good casting crew, and when with Pathfinder and Cal, and you're gonna have to help me remember some of those Rise.
Rise,
yeah. And then of course Coop is always in the production booth, keeping things running nice and smooth. Or smoothly, rather. And then when
Danielle too,
Danielle's pitched in, I think for there was a match or a night when Team Tragedy didn't play or something like that, and she hopped in the booth. And it's just when our main casters aren't available, these coaches are going in and getting their reps in with casting. So it's really cool to see. And man, solo casting's tough. So I give Zach a ton of credit for sticking around and pulling off that late night cast. But with regular season over, for those of you that have loved data, I'm sad to say I'm not going to continue to do the data through playoffs. My schedule is changing. Like I said, I go back to the office starting tomorrow, so I start prepping for school in the fall. So I'm not going to have as much time to compile all of this. So it's at a good time. This is the data for regular season, and then this will just kind of carry through playoffs. So no more updates, but through 7 weeks of play, we had 28 games played. Across those 28 games, we had 94 total unique champion picks across Coach Rival Season 2, 8 of which occurred in Week 7. Those picks were Lucian, Akali, Wukong, Kane, Aphelios, Yasuo, Malzahar, and Misfortune. And I would say check out that Misfortune pick. That one was streamed on Friday night. That should still be on the Twitch. It may not be what you expect it to be. Ooh. So yeah, throw that out there.
Spicy. I didn't watch that one.
I
gotta go back and check it out.
Yeah, go check that one out. Data, some more data. The highest PB presence when the dust has settled through 7 weeks, Nocturne has the highest PB presence at 79%. It was close. It was close between Nocturne and Morgana. They were both tied at 77%. But Nocturne, 79%. And that's 11 picks and 11 bans.
Wow.
For Nocturne. Yeah. So when you look at that through 28 games, he was in 22 of the Champ Selects.
That's talk about champion presence. That's insane. And parity too, man. 11 picks, 11 bands. That's really cool, actually. Like when you see it all laid out like that, it's I love seeing the data, right? So thank you for doing this. And I should also say to the folks listening, Justin does like 99% of this podcast by himself, right? Like I just show up and talk, and I get to like make some notes.
You do a little more than that.
he does all of these charts. He does all of the grunt work. He's doing the photo clips, and he's also getting all the stats and all that stuff. This dude, I mean, you must spend 10 plus hours a week on this stuff. So like, dude, like please take some time off. I know you got to focus on work, and this has been like incredible, but I think the timing, like you said, is perfect. So before we dive into all the data and stuff, I also just wanted to say like, thank you, Justin, bro. Like you've been carrying the load this season, so thank you so much.
It's a labor of love.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it. Just kind of like you. Like I could sit and spitball League of Legends all day.
Yeah.
And so it's for that part, it's really fun, but at the same time, it's a way of kind of giving back to the CR community because. And this is really off topic, and for anybody that's listening that is not a member of Coach Rivals, check us out at coachrivals.gg. If you are a high school esports coach or a collegiate esports coach, we would love to have you in our community in our Discord. But there was a while back that Cooper and Matt, I think, were looking for quotes from some of the coaches, like what does CR mean to you, and then we're going to put it on the website. And if you go to coachrivals.gg, you'll see some of those quotes from the coaches about what the community means to them and how they've grown and the ideas and the support that they've gotten. And I have some of those same stories, more on a just obviously more individualized and personalized for me, just as everybody does, but I don't like always verbalize those, but I am like extremely grateful for the community that we have and the relationships that we have. And doing the podcast is one of those things that it's fun, but at the same time it's giving back to what the community has done for me and what Cooper and Matt have invested a lot of time and money. I know they've put money into it, and it's kind of a way of helping other coaches, show like, hey, this podcast thing is something you can do with your students. Like you can make this part of your esports program. And if anybody like wants to know how all this works, then please reach out to me, and I would love to show you. It's really simple. Like I'm not trying to like toot my horn and say, look at all this stuff. It's really easy.
It's so easy.
It's easy. It just takes time to put together. But
to your point, Justin, like you said, like the goal of this show is to help advance high school and collegiate esports, right? And to make it something that's productive and make it something valuable, no matter how much experience you might have as a coach, as a player, as a human, right? Whatever, come as you are, and we're gonna try to help get you to a point where you feel comfortable, talking to your kids about League of Legends, right? At the core. And I think you or we have accomplished that, at least in some ways. We've gotten some feedback letting us know like folks are pretty happy with this package as a whole. But to your credit, man, like you never stop improving. I remember week 1. These charts were pretty rough, and then as we went each week, they got a little cleaner, and the data was a little bit more kind of honed in. And I love seeing like your passion for like, I don't know, just like coach outreach. I don't know exactly how to put it into a singular term, but I just love your passion for this activity and for this like pastime, I guess, right? It's kind of a young pastime, but like. It's really cool to see kind of all of it come together. In chat, someone just mentioned how Coach Rival started with 20 people, and now we're over 300-400. I don't know, like it's massive now.
I know we're international. I know that.
yeah, that's right. We got Germany, Mexico, Canada, all over the place.
Yeah, it's it's so weird, but my wife and I were, and the kids, of course, I have two kids, but for Christmas, we're taking a road trip to California. And one of the things that we were looking at, in my mind, I'm thinking, this is a family trip, okay? Like we're traveling from Alabama to California and back. But in my mind, I'm thinking, how many coaches can I see like on the way? Like we're gonna pass through, like we'll take a little pit stop, and that's selfish of me, right? Because we're spending time with family, but like I have friends all over the country, right? And for me, that's one of the I guess not to get too sappy and not too off topic, but like I don't have a lot of like in person like friends. Like I've got some guys in the neighborhood that I hang out with that I would consider, to be good friends, but I have nobody like locally that has the same interest as me when it comes to like gaming and stuff. There's some guys in my neighborhood that, we get together and we hang out. We've got some interest, but nobody else in my area, nobody in my family, nobody that I know and see face to face has the same interests that I do, like gaming. That's my age, that's in my life stage. So to get in this community and meet all of these people that are in those same life stages and have those same interests, that's a lot. And especially during like COVID time when I was away from my students and felt isolated, to have this community to lean on, to feel like, okay, you're not by yourself. Because during COVID, I feel a lot of people felt like they were alone, because you're everything's shut down, everything's digital, and it's, I don't know, you lose some of that personal connection with people. So, so this has been it's a labor of love. So that being said,
yeah, right. The sidetrack. Look, I'm famous for this. My wife hates it too because I do that. I'm like, oh, that just reminded me of something I'm going to talk about for 20 minutes, and we're going to forget what we were talking about before. So that's kind of my fault, right? We got sidetracked, but like I wanted to stop and say, like, we rarely sit and say, like, wow, look at all of this happening right now. Look at all the stuff that we've kind of helped start, this momentum. We've got some people behind us now that are excited about listening to us each week. We do this stuff for you guys, and I wanted to take a second to shout out Justin as well, because you're kind of a humble guy, man, and so it's really tough to have you put in all this work every week. I don't want to take any of the credit for all the stuff you're doing either, because it's pretty awesome, and I can't wait to see where the show goes next. So anyway, enough brotherly love and stuff.
Hey,
right?
I just brought you in for the notoriety. It has like I need a state champion. I got to bring in a state.
Yeah, right.
We need some name recognition on the podcast.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. They know me. Yeah, trust me. I'm well known for sure. Yeah.
I will say this too. If anybody is interested in being a producer for Rift Happens, feel free to Ronnie's the trophy caster. Rick the Cleaner in chat. If anybody wants to take over producer roles, that would be like putting together all of this stuff. If that's something that you would be passionate about, reach out. That's something that it takes time, but it's not like you're on stream talking. You don't have to talk about it, but putting this stuff together and like kind of bullet pointing things, like as a producer, which is also another role you could give to students. So we can grow this to a thing where we have different roles that coaches take on, just as a labor of love. We don't pay you.
Yeah, Rift Happens is hiring, in quotes, hiring. So reach out for sure. We're happy to hear from you. We have no money.
All right, moving on. 100% win rate champs. So these are the champions that have 100% win rate with more than one pick. Through 6 weeks, we had 2 champions sitting at the top, and that was Scion and Trundle, each with 3 wins apiece. But again, as everything's settled, Scion emerges. Shout out to Coach Magros. 4 picks on Scion, 100% win rate, followed up with Ziggs with 3 picks, and I think 2 of Ziggs' picks were in 1 week. Yeah, so Ziggs was sitting at 2 wins last week, 100% win rate, 2 picks. Now he's at 3 picks, 100% win rate. Pike still holding strong thanks to Ched. Oriana, that may be Sones. Vayne Lucian. Kindred now has 2 wins. That's as a result of the match from Friday night, so be sure to check that out. And then Akali sitting at 2 wins. We finally got some Akali.
You know, what's cool is I love that we have a king on top, Sion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And ironic that his chin is also a crown.
Yeah.
So he's already the king, right? I see there. See what I did there?
I see what you did there. It all comes full circle. I like it. And unfortunately, we go from the good news of champions with 100% win rate down to the bad, the 0% win rate champs with 1 pick. And topping those charts are, as you mentioned Dr. Mundo earlier, but Garen as well. Both of these champions sitting at 3 picks at 0 wins.
Bummer.
Yeah.
You know, so just quick side note on these. 2 of the champs I'm really surprised to see on this list are Gnar and Fiora, because the Fiora game, like, that was almost a win against you guys.
Let's say that Fiora has well, I would say that was a half a win.
Yeah, for real. Like, I'll put it on my shoulders, guys. I'm here. And the same with the Gnar from Hernandez Teaches, right? Like, really dominant performance, at least in one of the games that I can remember, but just not the result, right? And then a couple others we called out not having any Veigar picks. Well, we got a couple, and they were both losses. And then we called out the Jarvan. We got another Jarvan loss this week, man. What a bummer. Like, he just can't catch a break. So, and then Chad also mentioned the Xerath, right? Like, what a dominant week 1 performance, and then to still lose that match. So it's funny because these champions aren't necessarily low win rate or 0% win rate because they can't win. It's really more of just like, it's kind of the way the cookie crumbles, I guess, right?
Yeah, that match for Immortals, that was Mundo. Oh, that's really bright. Change that color. That's way too much. Yeah. So, holy moly. All right, I don't know what I'm doing here. What am I doing?
For those of you who can't see,
there we go.
We're going through a crisis now.
So Mundo, the Xerath, and that was also Coach Mustang's in chat. She's was that it? It was Mundo, Xerath, and I think there was another. Oh, it was the Fiora. Yeah. So those are those 3 picks were in that first match that they pretty much. No. Fiora was a separate match that they almost won, but that first game was Mundo, Xerath, something. But that should have been a win for them, and that was. But it may have been Garen. Coach Mustang's telling us in chat potentially, but either way, it really stinks for them. So that things could have been different. It was so close. It was so close.
Yeah.
Most picked. Go ahead. Yeah.
We finally got a Lulu win, right?
Yeah. Lulu was at the top. Lulu and Ornn actually were both sitting at 3 picks, 0% win rate, and now they're off. They're good. They got them a win.
Lulu and Ornn, man, they get the credit they deserve. 1 win.
Most picked champs, very similar to highest PB presence, but most picked is Nautilus and Nocturne. They're both tied at 11 picks, and Caitlyn also is at 10 picks. But this is why I wanted to point out. So we go back to why I didn't like the Caitlyn pick. Caitlyn has been picked 10 times across Coach Rival Season 2. She has a 61% PB rate. So 10 picks, 7 bans. Her win rate is only 40%.
Yep.
So yeah, she's really popular. She's got double-digit picks in 28 games across CR Season 2. She was involved in 17 of those champ select phases, right? Either picked or banned, but only a 40% win rate when she is picked.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, there's only 3 champs on this list, right? Of over 30%, right? For picks, and out of 3 of them, only 1 has a positive win rate. Mm-hmm. So Nautilus has been clawing back and winning a couple of games and finally moving that win rate up, but he's still sub 40%. And Caitlyn also only 40% win rate. So to your point, yeah, these champs get picked a lot, but Nocturne is the only one on this list that's really made an impact.
Yeah.
And ironically, he was on the 100% win rate list just a couple weeks ago, and he's lost almost every game since then. So
Hmm.
really, really, the numbers tell a pretty cool story here if you really break it down.
Yeah, and I think it was those Stridebreaker nerfs, right? Because
Mhm.
that was something that we had talked about. Once Stridebreaker nerf came through, how was it going to affect Nocturne? And there was debate that, well, it's not really going to impact it that much because you're going to get this gigantic slow. But the other thing that we don't really account for and the data doesn't show is how teams learn to play into that champion. Like you can't measure that, right? You
Yep.
can't look at that. It's just like the more we see this champion, it's like, okay, we can either ban it or we learn what to play into it.
Hmm.
And I
Like the
think,
Zaya,
yeah,
right?
like the Zaya, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Really good point. That's a really good call, Justin.
Most banned champs is our last piece of data that we've been looking at through 6 weeks. Morgana and Nocturne. I'm sorry, Morgana was the most banned champion at a 50% ban rate across 28 games.
Wow.
Through 7 weeks, Morgana still at the top, but she tied with Diana. So Diana kind of came out of nowhere. Her ban rate was at 41%, and then it jumped up to 43% to tie Morgana at 12 bans across 28 games. So they both sit at a 43% win rate. They are tying for the most banned champion in Coach Rivals Season 2.
Yeah, I noticed. So going back a little bit, if you remember, we actually had a week one Diana ban,
Mm-hmm.
and we were both like, "What?" And
Yeah.
now you look at Diana. We had a segment week two talking about like why did Diana get banned and
Mm-hmm.
stuff because it was so out of left field. And then as we've gone through the season, she's slowly kind of crept up. Her game presence has become, I mean, almost every single game now she's either getting picked or banned. It's a contested pick. So we went from relative obscurity just 6 weeks ago to wow, watch out for Diana, man. You got to ban her because she's going to take over the game. And then as that trajectory's gone up, you've seen Nocturne and Set on the inverse. They've started
Yeah.
going down as far as priority goes, especially Set. He was 100% win rate. Dude was getting pick banned every single game. He was in every single match, mid, top, wherever. And I don't think we saw a Set all week this past week. He's fallen off almost completely off the map. So really interesting.
Yeah. The Diana, I think it was either Casey the Knight or Mathieu Ledoux that picked Diana in the jungle first
Yeah, I
for
think it was
CR.
KC.
Yeah, and that was like that. That's when like, oh, that's why she's banned.
Yeah, that's what it is. He's really strong in the jungle, man. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so here's playoffs. Here's the playoff bracket. We're ready. This is my really low budget bracket forming that I did here with icons and straight lines and Google Slides. But for our
It's clean,
listeners,
good.
it's all right. First round of playoffs happens this Thursday night, July the 22nd. And the 4 matches being played for the first round of playoffs will be Team Tragedy versus Immortals, Hotline Ping versus JGE, Coach Diff versus the team on the right, and Death Cat for Cutie versus Spawn of Baron. On July 29th, the winner of Team Tragedy versus Immortals will take on the winner of Hotline Ping versus JGE, and the winner of Coach Diff and Team on the Right will take on the winner of Death Cat for Cutie and Spawn of Baron, culminating in our final match of playoffs on August 5th, which will obviously be the winners of whatever happened on July 29th, right? And that
Yeah.
will be a best of 3 series, so we're looking forward to that. I did get word, Will Wynn sent me a message over Discord saying, let her know that their playoff match is likely being rescheduled. This is Team on the Right, likely being rescheduled to Monday or Tuesday of next week. So I'm not sure which match is being streamed this Thursday night, But the Coach Diff versus Team on the Right match is likely going to be on Monday or Tuesday of next week. And if none of our casters can stream it, I'm gonna try my best to do it. But hopefully, we can get some of our all-star casters in to handle that. So I'll say this: like, we have enough people. I think that match should be streamed, and that's why I'm selecting it as our featured match of the week. So
your shot, man.
So
I love it.
our featured round 1 match is Coach Diff versus Team on the Right, and I think there are like so many cool storylines with this match, especially because obviously every team played every other team. But when you go back and you look at the standings, Coach Diff is sitting in 3rd place. Team on the Right is sitting in 6th place, and you're like, okay, that's a big, that's a big gap between those two teams. But Team on the Right gave Coach Diff one of their losses. So even though Team on the Right is sitting in 6th place and Coach Diff is up there in 3rd place, one of those 3 blemishes on the Coach Diff record came from Team on the Right. So I think Coach Diff is looking for revenge, right? To kind of bounce back. So I want to do similarly to what we did last week. I want to look at their champion pick history, right? And we're going to be coaches for these two teams and try to come up with like the first. All right. So first, let's try to, what do we see as the identities of these teams, right? Between Coach Diff and Team on the Right. We'll look at Coach Diff first. And so like, what do they have a firm identity that they have set out? What is that team's strengths? And then what advice we would give them for their matchup coming up on either Monday or Tuesday. Are you up to the challenge?
You know what? I'm always up for a challenge, Justin. Let's go.
I love it. All right, here we go.
Let me get real serious. No, All
right, Coach Diff. Here we go. Coach Diff. The lineup is in the top lane, Hernandez Teaches; in the jungle, Mathieu Ledoux; a Smooth Criminal in the mid lane, Dr. Strangeglove at ADC, or bot lane rather. Let me say bot lane instead, and Major Queso Destroyer at support. They are sitting at 4-3. Their 3 losses are to Deathcap for Cutie, Team on the Right, who this match is featured, and Team Tragedy. In the top lane, Hernandez Teaches, bringing out his champion pool consisting of 3 games of Set, 1 game of Viego, 1 game of Gnar, a game of Garen, and a game of Wukong. He broke that out. That was new. Mathieu Ledoux has only repeated Rumble as a pick. He's played Nocturne, Elise, Viego, Karthus, and Udyr. A Smooth Criminal has only repeated Nocturne as a mid lane pick. He's also played Set, Ahri, Sylas, Diana, and Anivia. Dr. Strangeglove in the bot lane, this is where Coach Diff gets a little more one-dimensional, right? And that's okay. I don't say that as an insult, but it's like just looking at their champion select history, like you can see it. But Dr. Strangeglove, out of 7 games, has picked Varus out of 6 of them. And the only reason he picked Senna in the game versus JGE is because Varus got banned. Or picked. It was one or the other, but Varus was unavailable, so he picked Senna instead. And then Major Queso Destroyer on 1 game of Nautilus, and that could be a telltale sign. So 1 game of Nautilus for Major Queso Destroyer, and then the rest of the games are 3 games of Seraphine, 1 of Morgana, and 2 of Brand. So just looking at the champion pool. So if we're going to analyze the team of Coach Diff, like what sort of identity do they have as a team?
Good question, right? So let's look at what games they won and lost, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their wins are generally these compositions that they're running that are very melee focused, right? Like you've got Set, Viego, you've got Set, and like basically you've got a lot of like beef, like we like to call it, right? And they do a good job of making sure Hernandez Teaches makes an impact when he's playing a champ with beef. Mathieu Ledoux can basically he's shown he can basically play anything, right? This guy has only, like you mentioned, only repeated 1 jungle champion, and it's not like he's run the table. He's got, probably 3-4 more in his bag he could bust out. We haven't seen Graves from him, or like Nidalee, who just got a buff. Trundle. I mean, the list goes on, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this guy probably hasn't even shown us everything he's capable of yet. But if I had to say, as far as champions go, Hernandez can't, as far as like stats go, right? You can't prioritize the Garen. Viego's been nerfed so hard from lane. I don't think you're going to be able to play Viego in the lane. And then you played Gnar well, but it hasn't resulted in a win.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like those three, even though those have been picks of theirs, Viego even being a win for the team, I don't think those are your priority. Matthew Ledoux can play anything, so he could basically leave his pick for last. You try to ban it or whatever, right? You can't ban him out. So I'm not really worried about him. He could basically fit whatever the team needs. But Hernandez teaches you got to get a priority on the set. I know we just talked about how it's been less and less of a priority for teams, but I feel like that's got to be a priority for you because you kick some butt when you play set, man.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you don't with other champs, but your set is chef's kiss. Smooth Criminal, bro. Like I wrote a note. I said, "Go off, sis." Right, and that's no insult to you as a man or woman or anything. I'm saying, like, bro, you can go off in these games. You can pop off if you've got a playmaking mid laner.
Yep.
So I don't want to see the Anivia. I don't want to see even the Nocturne because it's become less and less of a priority. It's a lot less impactful than it was. Diana, really great idea. Right, I love seeing the Ahri week 1. We haven't been able to see it again since, but that Ahri game in week 1 was phenomenal, right? So, kind of champions in that wheelhouse. Even like a Yasuo, a Yone. We haven't seen Yone yet. If you can play Yone, Smooth Criminal, I'm challenging you. Bust out the Yone, my guy. And I'll try to rattle these last two off quick so it doesn't take too long. Dr. Strangeglove. I wrote Varus. I wrote it 3 times. You got to get the Varus, my guy, because you're fantastic on it. Not that you can't play other stuff, but you're really, really good with Varus. Stick to what you know. Grab it early if you can. And then Major Queso Destroyer. You tend to do better with Enchanter type supports. Go with what you know, man. We haven't seen Lux from you yet, so that might be a good one to bust out if the Morgana and the Seraphine get banned. Lulu, we talked about earlier. Finally, she's got a win on the board. You don't have to worry about her 0% win rate lingering over your head anymore. You can win with Lulu and coach rivals. So pick up the Lulu if it doesn't get banned out. That's another really great Enchanter support. It works well with the Varus as well. He doesn't have an escape tool of his own, so you're kind of, that's your job. So that would be my suggestions for you 5. You guys have a game plan that's worked successfully. You were undefeated through 3 weeks. And then things just kind of like you got a couple of tough games that came through there. So don't get down on like what's our identity, any of that. Just focus on what you guys were doing well, and I think you're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I like that you pointed out there's a lot of beef on there. They do have they typically play skirmishers in top, mid, and then they get in your face with the jungle as well. And then they let their bot lane, we've said this on the podcast before, they let their bot lane play weak side with a lot of utility. So Varus brings a lot of utility with his ultimate, really. And then he does the percent health damage as well once his blight stacks are applied and he detonates those. Seraphine, a lot of utility as well, from the shield, the shielding, the healing, the ult with the charm. So I'm gonna throw another pick out there because I'm anticipating Coach Diff having some bans thrown their way. So what I would like to see out of Coach Diff, if Varus gets banned, I think Ashe would be a really good substitute.
Did you read my mind? I was literally going to say Ashe, and you said it like as it came into my brain. Bro, like we are on some kind of psychic connection thing right now.
So, all right. So I think Ashe is good, right? Because you got the slow, you have the long range engage with the arrow, with the enchanted crystal arrow. You also have scouting the enemy jungler, and to kind of keep your laners safe with the hawk shots. If Major Queso Destroyer's Seraphine gets banned, why not go with the Seraphine's alpha version, Sona? Right?
Ooh.
So Seraphine is she's Sona 2.0, right? So go with Seraphine 1.0, which is Sona. The test version of it that didn't quite succeed, and then they had to redo it. So I like it's the same playstyle, really.
Yeah.
You're sitting back. The ultimate is the same, really kind of skill shot. Obviously, the distance doesn't carry further in Sonas, but same idea with the W for the healing and the shielding. It just, those types of champions with area buffs, or even like a Karma, with the mantra shielding, worked really well with things like the Set and the Udyr and the Nocturne running in, and even the Silas, getting up close and personal with there. So I feel like that's the MO of the Coach Diff bot lane. And now their other strength is in their flexibility. And that's where I think they give teams in the league the most trouble. As you mentioned, the Set has been played by Hernandez Teaches 3 times, but he's also been played by a Smooth Criminal in the mid lane. Nocturne was played twice by a Smooth Criminal and once by Mathieu Ledoux. Viego played once in the top lane, also played in the jungle. I feel like Coach Diff is like gravitating to these types of picks. I feel like, I don't know, I've never been involved in their practices, but it would not surprise me if they get together, those 3, if Hernandez Teaches, Mathieu Ledoux, and a Smooth Criminal get together and say, okay, what champion can we break out next that would fit all 3 of our playstyles? Or at least 2 of the 3. So they've already got Set, they've already got Nocturne. I would expect to see the Diana be a power pick for them, because a Smooth Criminal can play it and they can also take it into the jungle. Any other mid lane / jungle picks, I would love to see them find more, and maybe get another one up for Hernandez Siege. Rumble top is not bad. I know Rumble's been in the jungle for the past several patches, but Rumble top can still be played. He's prioritizing the jungle right now because of how good his clear is, and it's relatively healthy, and he takes camps quickly. But his ultimate, it doesn't matter if you don't get kills in lane. Once you group for team fights, that ultimate is ridiculously strong. So I would like to see Hernandez Teaches learn Rumble and then possibly like bust that out as a flex, going through playoffs.
Spicy, Justin. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, the flex. You're right. That's definitely a point of emphasis for these guys. Another one that works well with that would be Trundle, right?
Mm-hmm.
With Hernandez and Mathieu Ledoux.
Oh, yeah. I didn't think about Trundle.
You both practice some Trundle. He can go top. He can go jungle. So that's another one that maybe you guys could practice this week before your match. He's a really simple champion to pick up and play. So, not necessarily something you have to, dive 20, 30 games in to get a better idea of. But, I love that. Love the call out. Really, really good analysis, Justin.
All right. Are you ready? Let's go back to before we talk about Team on the Right. If you were Team on the Right, which champions would you ban versus Coach Diff?
It's funny. We talked about, hey man, you guys got to get this, you got to get that. I'd ban the Set, honestly, like first ban, just to make a point, right? Y'all ain't getting to play that. I don't know if the Varus is worth banning necessarily, because he can play something else, right? It's like you said with ADCs, it's a right click champion. So I don't know if the Varus is worth a ban, but I think Set, maybe the Seraphine is worth a ban, just to kind of whittle down the pool. Like you said, maybe a Sona or something else that they haven't really had to play yet. Put them on an uncomfortable pick. And man, I don't know, that third one, I want to say Nocturne because they picked it so much, but it's just not as impactful. So I think you let the Nocturne through if they want it.
They've lost twice on it.
Yeah, right. In the last couple of games. So yeah, I'd say probably Set ban, Seraphine ban, and then maybe a Viego ban. But honestly, the Viego ban is kind of a throwaway because I can't come up with a good third one.
Yeah, I think Viego. I think you're right. I think Viego's just going to be jungle. So if they throw the Viego in, where it's going to be. But yeah, I actually 100% agree with the Set ban. I think Seraphine could really be a good band versus Coach Diff, just because if they're gonna run something like Set or Rumble, these champions that want to get within melee range and get right up in your face, Seraphine is great on the back line for teams like that because her ult fires through her own teammates and keeps you all, snared or charmed right there into the Rumble queue, into the Rumble ultimate. I wouldn't be surprised to see them break out this duo again of Nocturne Rumble like they did versus Team Tragedy. That's a devastating duo, but I think it may be better to mix them up a little bit and throw Rumble top and throw Nocturne jungle. But I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I'm with you. I think Set 100%. Get him out of there. Sorry, Robbie.
Sorry, Robbie. Yeah, we want to see you play it, bro, but I don't know that it's gonna happen, man. It's just too good.
In the spirit of fairness, we do have to talk about the team on the right. So we're going to do the same thing. So we're not just picking on Coach Diff. We're going to do the same thing for team on the right. So lineup is Magistab in the top lane, Cannon Teach in the jungle, Bullet Games in mid lane, Will Win at bot lane, Bulldog Mentor at support. Magistab bringing in 2 Lulu picks, Morgana, Veigar, Ornn, and 2 Shin picks. So Magistab, one of our coaches that I believe a support main and is trying to adapt to top lane and has broken out Shin twice and Ornn, but oftentimes has defaulted back on some of the comfort, like you mentioned earlier, like not even like pocket picks, but just like I know these champions well enough. Like I can pilot a suboptimal top lane pick better than I can an optimal top lane pick just based on my experience with that champion, right? Like yeah. if I take Caitlyn to the top lane, I will play better on Caitlyn in the top lane or in the mid lane than I would a traditional top laner or a traditional mid laner just because I know the champion. Like back and forth.
Yeah. It's like that thing that I don't know if your students do this too, but mine will do this thing where they're like, "Oh, this guy is countered by this champion," and I'm like, "Have you ever played that champion even once?" They're like, "No, but it counters him." Like, no, that's not how League of Legends works, dude. Like, you have to know the matchup to counter it effectively. So, champions don't just like, oh, I picked rock, you pick scissors, I win.
Right. Comfort over counter is always really, really important. Cannon Teach in the jungle, 3 games of Volibear. In fact, Cannon Teach is undefeated on Volibear. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
He is the storm, bro. He is the storm. I called this weeks ago.
Undefeated. A game of Udyr, Jarvan, Vi, and Mundo. Losses on those. Bullet Games. The mid lane AP assassin extraordinaire has the pentakill on Katarina in the exhibition, but also plays Fizz, Kassadin, Akali. There's a Kayle game thrown in there. I have a theory about that Kayle pick, but that didn't really fit his wheelhouse of champions. They did end up losing that game, but the Kayle pick really surprised me from Bullet Games. Will Win playing a different ADC every single week except for Ezreal. Played Ezreal twice. The other games were Varus, Jinx, Kai'Sa, Lucian, and Kindred. And then Bulldog Mentor holding down the hard engage for team on the right. So we talk about team identity. Bulldog Mentor is the team on the right's hard engage tool. Bulldog Mentor's played Nautilus 3 games, 1 game of Alistar, a game of Rakan, and 2 of Leona. It's very clear what this coach's role is in the team. It's you see champions, you go. You start the fights for us, please. That is 100% Bulldog Mentor's job, and that is evidenced by that champ pool there. So with that, okay, that being your what would you say the strengths are of this? We're going to kind of give them the same treatment that we did Coach Diff. What do we want to see out of team on the right?
Well, okay, I mentioned it, right? Volibear. I called this back in week 3 when it happened. He took over that game against Spawn of Baron, and I think he was deathless in that game, if I'm remembering correctly. He had 20 assists, a couple of kills, and he was one of the only players, if not the only one, that was deathless in that game. So basically, he had a perfect game, And he's also, like we mentioned, he's won the following 2 games with Volibear. This last week he played them back to back, and yeah, kick some butt with it. So Volibear, obviously something very comfortable for Kanatich. He's able to play it. I mean, really well. Um, Top lane, like you mentioned it already, right? He's not a traditional. Magistav isn't a traditional top lane main, right? So he was kind of put into this position, and I'll actually let you in. I'll peel the curtain back a little bit.
Ooh, oh, do,
Uh,
please
uh,
do, sir.
yeah. So team on the right, they were put in a very unenviable position by me. Actually, me personally,
Oh,
I signed up for Coach Rivals, and then had to back out before week 1 even kicked off. It was like a week into practices.
ah.
Yeah, so I was on this team,
Oh, so I don't
and
know if you could. No, I don't. This I don't think we can have you comment anymore. Are you?
right,
You're
I know, right?
biased.
I have all the insight now. I mean, I didn't even play a single game with these guys other than a couple of practice rounds, but I was supposed to be their top laner, and so you saw Magistav
Oh.
have to fill very late on, as now I'm the top laner and I don't know how to play top, so I'm going to play what I know. And Bulldog Mentor came in to fill in, and I guess, very comfortable on support. So between Bulldog Mentor and Magic Stab, maybe they played rock, paper, scissors to decide who was the support, or maybe someone said, I'll do it, whatever. I don't know what that conversation looked like, but I know for a fact that's why Magistav had a slower transition to top lane than most other top laners.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll own that. That's on me, right? You guys have rolled with the punches since then, and you've come out to be, a really solid team. And I knew you had it in you the whole time, because even those first couple of practices, I could tell you guys had a really solid game plan. And Will Win is one heck of a coach, man. He's on a personal note, that guy knows the game really well. So, anyway, just to peel the curtain back a little, right? To let you know a little bit about why this team is in the position that it's in. So, Magis Dav, I think it's great that you're playing kind of more support style champions in the top lane. But that Shen game you had back in week 3 was just fan freaking tastic, man.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see more of that Shen. No one else is playing it. It's not necessarily like a really busted pick right now, but when played well and paired up with something like like a Volibear who you can basically ult onto and then engage. He turns off the tower. You help him out. You get in there for a big taunt. I mean, those 2 champions work really well together. So I think if you secure the Volibear, Shen is a really strong pick to kind of go along with that, because Volibear wants to get in your face.
Mm-hmm.
Shen helps you do that. Bullet Games, he's been more of the assassin style player. He likes to play Katarina, Kassadin, right? Akali, Fizz. These are all characters that basically are very weak as far as defensive and HP stats, but very strong in terms of just like blowing somebody up. I would love to see Bullet Games bust. I don't even know if he can play it. I'd love to see him bust out LeBlanc, because LeBlanc is a really strong
Okay.
pick at the moment. It fits his play style,
Yeah.
and it's not a pick that we've seen before. So it would really, I think, throw a lot of other teams for a loop. You guys are in a match against a higher seeded team. You want to surprise them. Well, sorry for spoiling the surprise if this is what your plan was, but I'd love to see some LeBlanc. But you're not doing anything wrong with the Akali, so keep that up too. And then Will Win, like I mentioned, this guy has such a great fundamental understanding of the game. That guy can play, I mean, just about anything really well. And I do know, though, he favors Ezreal. So if you guys can get the Ezreal, he's going to have a really good game, just in general, right? He's very comfortable on it. He's really able to like weave those mystic shots in between the minions. He knows the range and all that kind of stuff. So really really good with the Ezreal pick. I would say if you guys can get it, then pick it up. But Coach Diff, I would recommend you guys ban it. He's going to pick another good ADC, of course, but Ezreal is a comfort pick for Will Win, hands down. And then Bulldog Mentor, yeah, the engaged supports, man. I love seeing it. I want to see some more Rakan. Maybe you guys could do a Zaya Rakan if
Mm-hmm.
Ezreal gets banned out, right? With the new Zaya buffs. Yeah. I think that would be really cool. I don't think we've seen Zaya Rakan paired up. We've seen Rakan before. We've seen Zaya before. I don't know that we've seen the two of them on the same team. So that would be kind of cool, right? Just for the narrative, but also because it's characters that fit your play style for both of you guys. So Will Win is the style of player that he wants to carry. He's like, keep me alive, and I'll put you guys on my back. And Zaya helps you stay alive. It gives you one more escape tool. So yeah, that'd probably be my recommendations as far as picks and stuff go.
And you touched on something that that I've noticed. I think Team on the Right and Hotline Ping have two very similar styles in
Yes.
that they put a lot of eggs in the AD carry basket. And if I seem a little distracted right now, I'm going back and I'm looking to see if we've had a Zaya Rakan duo, and I don't think that we have. I'm going all the way
Yeah.
back, and I don't. Yeah, we've not had a Zaya Rakan duo yet in Coach
The
Rival season
lovers
2.
duo.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Come
think
on,
that'd be
guys.
great. Yeah, I think that'd be that's a really good call out. It puts Bulldog Mentor a on an engage champion, which is comfortable, and then they have a lot more lane presence because Zaya, for those of you that may not know, Zaya's W also buffs Rakan. It doesn't buff any other champion. So when Zaya pops her W and it gives her attack speed, it also gives a passive onto Rakan's attacks. So their level 1 is actually really really strong. If you could even like do a cheese brush level 1, both of them start W, and you just, as long as you keep auto attacking, you're gonna win the trade level 1. Now obviously if you're in the middle of minions, it's going to be a little bit different, but either way, super super strong duo. Zaya now getting buffs for patch 11.15. I think that's a phenomenal call out, and it kind of goes along with Will's like picking different ADCs. And I don't have all the bans here to see like what they banned against him, but Zaya as an ADC main, Zaya is one of the few ADC champions where I feel like I have the most agency on. Like, I feel like it doesn't matter if my support feeds, it doesn't matter if I'm not getting peel. I can do something on Zaya. Whereas on most other AD carries, I feel like I need a front line. I need a front line to work. I need room, and I need y'all to create room for me. And when you don't do that, I'm just frustrated because my team is imploding around me. But Zaya is one of those champions where I feel like I can do that regardless of what my team is doing. I've got so much damage in the feathers. The pullback from the feathers is where a majority of her damage lies, is getting caught in that. Yes, 3 of them root you, but they do so much damage, and every feather does damage to you. So it's not like some other abilities in League of Legends where if you get hit by the ability multiple times, it does like a flat amount of damage. For Zaya, every single feather does damage. So if she throws down her ultimate, I think it throws out 10 feathers or something like that. If she's able to pull all 10 of them back through you, like flash on you or gale force right next to you to pull them all through you point blank, you're dead. There's no way you don't survive that as as a Katarina or as a Lulu. So
Yeah, really similar to Cutlass's Rend ability, right?
Yeah,
Every single spear counts.
Yeah, exactly. I like the LeBlanc for bullet games. I like that. I think Diana could be a cool pick for him as well. Kind of seems to fit his wheelhouse. It won't work as a flex pick for them like it would for Coach Diff, but it could be a steal, right? Knowing that I can pick Diana and that's taking it away from a smooth criminal. But again, both of these, as you said, both of these players have really deep champion pools. So I don't feel like you can really ban either one of them out. I did highlight their win here. This was the match versus Coach Diff that they had. So as you see here, the comp that Team on the Right ran was Lulu top, Volibear jungle, Akali mid, Lucian bot, and Leona support. I say versus Team on the Right because Team on the Right's identity of we're going to put a lot of eggs in the ADC basket. Lulu's an easy ban for me. Like, I get rid of that because it prevents assassination on the ADC. Like, Lulu is not going to be necessarily a great champion in a sustained fight that goes on for a really, really long time, but she's great at keeping one champion alive for enough time where they can dish out enough damage to be really impactful. And I think that they experimented with that in the game versus Team Tragedy. As I slide this over, in this particular game, that Kayle mid, like, that really jumped out to me. Like, that was different. That didn't show up on scouting reports, I don't believe, and it threw us off. And as I'm looking at it, I'm wondering if that Kayle pick wasn't specifically picked in order to shield the Ezreal. Like, just use the Kayle ultimate and put it on me. Like, just make sure I live. And I mean, I don't know if that was what their strategy was, but if it was, it wouldn't surprise me because it fits that MO of just protect me, just keep me alive. Lulu, wild growth, the ADC. Kayle, ult the ADC, right? Just protect me and I will carry. So knowing that, I think that does help Coach Diff a lot because you really only have 2 damage threats to worry about on Team on the Right. You've got to worry about bullet games. You got to worry about Will Win. Volibear, not known as a big damage jungler, right? He's got a really good clear, and the tower diving is awesome. I think that works as a really good pick for Cannon Teach because if bot lane is rolling really hard and they're constantly shoving waves into the enemy and the enemy's playing super, super safe, that Volibear can just ult in, turn the tower off, and it's an instant tower dive. It's easy peasy. Like, it's hard for us to kill the bot lane because they're playing so scared. Well, that's where Volibear comes in. Like, they can't hide under tower anymore because you have this gigantic storm bear jumping on your face.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good pick that works for them.
Yeah, and to your point, like to lean into what you're saying, the game against some Yordles, he went full, Kindred, right? Which isn't a traditional ADC pick, but again, it's the invincibility. It's the I'm able to stay alive through whatever you throw at me. You can't kill me. I'm gonna dish out damage, type of build. And like, man, really good analysis there because the Kayle, the Kindred, those both tell me. The Lulu pick as well. They both tell me exactly what you're talking about. It's let's make sure that Will can stay alive, dish out the damage. It's our job to hit everybody else with the CC, with the polymorph, turn off the tower, get him a shield, get the slow out there, let him do his job, and we will do ours. And really good call out there with the Kayle pick. Threw me for a loop too. So where did that go? And when I watched the game, I saw it come through, and that's not typically what he plays, but it makes a lot of sense when you put it in that context.
Yeah, it surprises, but then when you look over on the side of Coach Diff, they have a triple damage threat. Their damage is top, jungle, and mid. Like, their jungle doesn't play like utility supportive, like tanky jungles. Like, he is going to kill you. So 2 very different play styles. So like I said, thank you for helping me break it down. I think it's going to be an exciting matchup, and I really hope that it gets streamed once we get the date settled on it.
Yeah, the revenge match.
So who do you ban if you're Coach Diff? We talked about who you ban against Coach Diff. Who are you banning against Team on the Right?
So if I'm on Coach Diff and I'm trying to ban out Team on the Right, I think you got to ban the Ezreal. I know it feels bad because he's just going to pick something else that's really strong, but I think you got to ban the Ezreal because he's just so comfortable on it. I think you probably want to ban the Volibear because all 3 of their wins have come from when Cannon Teach was playing Volibear, so it's probably not a coincidence. So probably throw one that way, and then you might actually just ban out the Morgana, to be honest, because you can't ban Xayah. Like, you've only got so many bans. You can't ban out bullet games. He's just going to play another assassin. I think honestly the Morgana ban might be worth it because they could flex that top bot, even jungle could play it technically. So I almost think the Morgana ban is worth it. They haven't played it since week 1, but I know it's something that they can play, and it fits into that same keep Will alive, black shield him, make sure he doesn't get collapsed on. And I feel like that's even more impressive than Lulu. So I would probably ban out the Morgana as the third one.
Okay.
But you didn't see that coming.
I didn't. I didn't see the Morgana ban over the Lulu.
Yeah, that's a tough call.
Me. Yeah. Okay.
And what about you? What are your 3?
I would ban probably Ezreal, Lulu, and I was gonna say Fizz from Bullet Games. Katarina is manageable. Katarina can be dealt with. I don't think it's worth trying to ban out Bulldog Mentor because she's shown that she has a deep enough champion pool that if you ban Rakan, she could just play Alistar, or she could play Leona or Nautilus. So, if you ban that, you're just going to have to deal with another hard engaged support that she's shown she's good on. So Lulu, Ezreal, possibly Vayne. Will has shown like a deep champion pool. And I don't know if he's striving to play a different champion every week, although we do have the repeat on the Ezreal. I'm wondering if, it's kind of like, you know what, I'm going to go through, I'm going to play a different. I'm going to play every ADC, A to Z, and each week show something different. Vayne would be one of the next ones. But if you look, they played this comp 2 games in a row. Yeah. Right? That Lulu, Volibear, Akali, Leona. They played that 2 games in a row. The only differing champ was the ADC. So it's kind of one of those where, from a coaching standpoint, you're like, well, crap, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Yeah, right. Just keep firing.
Just keep running. Just keep running it back. So from the side of Coach Diff, do you only target, these champions, these 4, to force them to show something new because they've shown from 2 wins in a row, versus Coach Diff versus your own team and versus Immortals, that they are comfortable on this kind of comp and they can't execute it. So you may want to put them on something uncomfortable.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to the conversations those guys are having. Of course, like Hernandez teaches saying, no, guys, I can handle the Lulu. Let it through, whatever, right? Put it on my back. I got you. So I know he's the type of player that does like to kind of, shot call a little bit. And I know that if I didn't see the score lines for these games, right? But I'm sure if he was part of the reason his team lost, Hernandez teaches is going to want to put on the carry pants and really take it to Magic Staff in this next game. So maybe they want the Lulu because they want to run it back and beat them with it this time or something. Who knows? But if I know those guys at all, they're probably already planning for this composition. Most likely, because it was really successful.
Well, very cool. Well, that will be our featured match. Will it be sweet, sweet revenge for Coach Diff? Getting revenge on Team on the Right for tarnishing their record, giving them one of the 3 blemishes on it, or will it be Team on the Right coming out ahead and be like, listen, you're above us in the standings, but we've got your number over and over again. We'll find out Monday or Tuesday night, whenever that is streamed. So be sure to check that one out. Those are our predictions. They don't have to listen to them. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But either way, we're looking forward to finding out if they do. And hopefully we will see you there. But that is going to do it for us. This was episode 7 of Rift Happens. If you'd like some more information about Coach Rivals, be sure to check that out at coachrivals.gg. And we're on Twitter, also on Twitch, which a lot of you are watching us right now. And we also have a YouTube channel over at that channel name is Coach Rivals. So for Ronnie B, I'm Justin T. We are signing off. Thank you guys so much for being here.
It's been a lot of fun, guys. Thanks for all the activity in the chat. We'll see you guys next week with some playoff analysis.
That's right. See y'all.